Have a good day, everyone. I am Julian G. Magonsha, a MAELT student. Today, I'm going to give a lecture on how learning is facilitated. On the screen, we can see the operational hierarchy and the bridging, teaching, learning, and philosophy of education. The first is we have the approach as axiomatic or philosophical. The next is we have the method as procedural. And the last one is the technique or strategies as implementational. The next slide, I'm going to discuss with you why they are implementational, procedural, and axiomatic, and philosophical. So here they are, the three elements at work in the classroom. Approach. Approach refers to a set of belief systems or philosophy dealing with the nature of education or of language, learning, and teaching. In other words, it is a principle or idea of a teacher behind a method of teaching. Method refers to an overall plan for a systematic presentation of a concept based upon a selected approach. So it is an instructional delivery or a step-by-step delivery of a lesson. And lastly, technique is the specific activities manifested in the classroom that are consistent with a method and therefore in harmony with an approach. Or in other words, it is the individual style of a teacher in carrying out the method. And now there are two types of approach that we are going to differentiate: the constructivism and the traditional teaching. Constructivism is basically a theory based on observation and scientific study about how people learn. So it says that the people construct their own idea and knowledge of the world through experiencing things and reflecting on those experiences. Constructivism highlights the idea of learning now an active process. Student automatically brings prior knowledge forward, and students share their experiences in group and learn from each other. So in this approach, students learn best by constructing new ideas on comparison with the current and previous knowledge. On the other hand, in the traditional teaching, it is an instructor-centered model, one-way transfer of information, and it encourages memorization. There is only limited participation and there is no room for thinking and understanding. In this approach, the students simply swallow what was being fed to them. So, the similarities of the two are that they are both an approach. Okay, so we have a lot of approaches in constructivism, as what we can see on the screen. So under the cooperative learning are its elements: the face-to-face interaction, positive interdependence, individual accountability, group processing, and collaborative learning. And we can see also the elements of the differentiated instruction, which are the content, process, products, and learning environment. Now let's know the different approaches one by one. Let's begin with the whole language. It is a method of teaching children to read by recognizing words as whole pieces of language. Proponents of whole language philosophy believe that language should not be broken down into letters and combinations of letters and decoded. Instead, they believe that language is a complete system of making meaning, with words functioning in relation to each other in context. Now the second is multiple intelligences. It is a theory advocated by Howard Gardner, which posits that humans are endowed with various intelligences. Some are innately developed, others are minimally developed, but others can still be developed. Among those taught are musical, linguistic, spatial, logical, mathematical, kinesthetic, interpersonal, intrapersonal, naturalistic, and existential spiritual. Next is the schema theory. So it describes an organized pattern of thought or behavior that organizes categories of information and the relationships among them. It can also be described as mental structure of preconceived knowledge ideas. So, a framework representing some aspects of the world or a system organizing and perceiving new information. Next is the English for specific purposes. So the thrust of this approach is the refinement of the teaching in English for a particular discipline. The fundamental knowledge and the structure of general English has to be achieved first before a deeper and wider exposure to the specialized lexicon of a particular discipline. On the other hand, discovery learning is an active process of inquiry-based instruction that encourages learners to build on prior knowledge through experience and to search for new information and relationship based on their interests. Another approach of constructivism is reflective teaching and learning. So this means that both the teacher and the students look closely at what they do in the classroom. Think about what they do, why they do it, and think about it. So it is a process of self-observation and self-evaluation, self-correction and internalizing new insights gained and apply them in similar other situations and take it as a learning experience. Next is experiential learning. So it involves learning from experience. So the theory was proposed by psychologist David Kolb, who was influenced by the work of Dewey, Lewin, and Piaget. Then modular approach. It is an approach to the design of equipment, systems, programs, and the like. Next is the concept learning. So defined as the search for and listing of attributes that can be used to distinguish exemplars from non-exemplars of various categories. The next one is we have the process approach, and it is the application of a system of processes. Inquiry-based learning starts by posing questions, problems, or scenarios rather than simply presenting established facts. Alright, so we have another approach of constructivism, and that is differentiated instruction. It consists of efforts of teachers to respond to variance among learners in the classroom. There are 4 classroom elements. The first is the content. So this refers to what the student needs to learn or how the student will get access to the information. Next is the process. So these are the activities in which the student engages in order to make sense of or master the content. Next is products. Products are the culminating projects that asks the student to rehearse, apply, and extend when he or she has learned in a unit. And the last one is we have learning environment. So this is the way the classroom works and feels. Now let's proceed to the cooperative learning as one of the approaches in constructivism. So it is a teaching method where students of mixed levels of ability are arranged into groups and rewarded according to the group's success. So elements of cooperative learning. So first is we have the face-to-face interaction. So the students discuss and explain assignment topics with each other through face-to-face activities. Positive interdependence is the student's sense that they can make it as a group. Then the next one is the individual accountability. Each is accountable for their contribution to the group. And the last one, we have group processing. So students are given a means of analyzing their group for how well the group has learned and whether or not collaborative skills are being used. Then the last one is the collaborative skills. Students learn interpersonal skills and how to work in teams. That is the collaborative skills. Alright, so from those approaches that I mentioned earlier, we can also apply the techniques that are anchored on those approaches. So the first one is we have the journal writing, and the second one is we have the role playing. In the journal writing, so we all know that keeping a journal or diary is a great way to chronicle events in our life. So we can record not only the things that are happening, but also our thoughts about them. So this allows us to sort out our feelings. So anyone who has kept a journal will attest to the benefit. So it helps us grow, and that inner part of us is on a spiritual journey, and we need to spend time contemplating the lessons learned from daily living. So that is journal writing. Next is we have the role playing. So role playing is a learning structure that allows students to immediately apply content as they are put in the role of a decision maker who must make a decision regarding a policy, resource allocation, or some other outcome. So this technique is an excellent tool for engaging students and allowing them to interact with their peers as they try to complete the task assigned to them in their specific role. So this work can be done in cooperative groups, and or students can maintain the persona of their role throughout the class period. So students are more engaged as they try to respond to the material from the perspective of their character. And lastly, we also have methods that are popularly used. So we have lecture method. So lecture is an oral presentation of information by the instructor. The discussion method. So discussion involves two-way communication between participants. Next is the demonstration lesson. So we can have the buzz groups. And then we have brainstorming, role-playing, cooperative learning, and group reporting. So thank you for listening, and I hope that you learned a lot from this lecture. Once again, I am your lecturer for today, Miss Julian Magonsha.